Have you ever wondered why the most painful rejection doesn't come from harsh words, but from being quietly ignored, as if your presence never mattered at all? This is where the story of heart-touching change truly begins, because hate rarely announces itself. It hides in silence, in distance, in the way someone looks through you instead of at you. In one day, respect can be born, but only if we first recognize how subtle hate operates, especially toward women who are constantly watched, judged, and yet emotionally dismissed. As a therapist, I want you to know this. When someone avoids you, devalues you, or reduces you to a stereotype, it says far more about their inner conflict than your worth. Many men who seem distant or cold are not indifferent. They are often obsessed in a confused, unhealthy way, battling attraction, fear, and prejudice at the same time. Obsession doesn't always look like attention. Sometimes it looks like silence, control, or emotional withdrawal, because respecting your humanity would force them to confront their own biases. The silent avoidance you feel is not neutrality, it is learned hate dressed as politeness. And yet the title reminds us that change can happen in a single day, because the human brain is wired for empathy once it is exposed to real presence. What should you do? First, never chase validation from someone who refuses to see you fully. Your dignity is not a lesson you need to teach through suffering. Second, trust your intuition. Women sense emotional danger long before words confirm it. And that instinct is wisdom, not weakness. When you notice obsession without respect, distance without explanation, remind yourself that attraction without humanity is not love, it is insecurity. The shift from hate to respect often begins when you stop shrinking yourself to be acceptable and instead stand grounded in who you are. Your calm boundaries, your refusal to internalize silent prejudice, become the mirror that forces others to face themselves. In one day, a man can move from avoidance to respect when he realizes you are not an idea, not a threat, not a fantasy, but a human being. And whether that change happens or not, your power remains the same. You do not need to be understood by everyone to be worthy of respect. True healing begins when you stop asking why they couldn't see you and start honoring the strength it took to remain whole despite their silence. Have you ever noticed how a single, ordinary moment can expose everything someone has been hiding inside for years? That is the quiet power behind heart-touching change. Because hate does not always reveal itself in dramatic scenes. It slips out during small, unplanned encounters that the mind cannot rehearse for. In one day, respect can be born when a simple moment interrupts prejudice, especially when a woman stands in her calm presence and refuses to play the role others secretly assign to her. As a therapist, I want you to understand this deeply. Many men carry beliefs about women that collapse the moment reality enters the room. They may obsess over you from a distance, watching, comparing, imagining, yet feeling threatened when the fantasy meets a real, thinking, feeling human being. That obsession often turns into judgment, discomfort, or subtle hostility. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you shattered an illusion they were clinging to. The title lives in this moment, the elevator ride, the shared task. The accidental conversation where their internal story is forced to confront your humanity. What should you do when this happens? Stay rooted in yourself. You do not need to over-explain, soften, or make yourself smaller to manage someone else's emotional collapse. Your steadiness is what creates the possibility of change. When you respond with quiet confidence instead of defensiveness, the other person is left face to face with their own assumptions. This is how one day becomes transformational, not because you changed them, but because you refuse to abandon yourself. Many men confuse obsession with connection. They believe wanting you entitles them to define you. But respect begins when they realize you exist beyond their thoughts. If you ever feel tension shift in a room after a simple interaction, trust that something internal has been challenged. Your role is not to educate through exhaustion, but to protect your emotional space and allow reality to do the work. Heart-touching change does not require confrontation, requires authenticity. And whether that moment leads to respect or resistance, Remember this powerful truth. You are not responsible for carrying someone from hate to understanding, but your presence alone can reveal the path. The most healing choice is knowing that even in one ordinary day, your dignity can be the moment everything changes. Asterisk. Have you ever wondered why words often fail to change a heart, yet a simple, honest expression of feeling can shift everything in a single moment? This is the quiet truth behind heart-touching change. Because hate and prejudice crumble not under arguments, but when they meet real human emotion. Many women experience this daily without realizing it. Men may watch, judge, or even obsess, silently imagining control over a life they do not truly know. And yet the simplest acknowledgement of their pain or effort can shatter assumptions instantly. As a therapist, I want you to understand this. The most profound transformations happen when pain is recognized, not debated. When a man sees that his words or actions cause discomfort, he is forced to confront a reality he has ignored. An obsession often turns into respect when he witnesses your unwavering dignity. The subtle truth is that men can obsess over women for years, crafting fantasies, making judgments, and projecting their fears. Yet the tiniest human interaction, a quiet acknowledgement, a calm boundary, a moment of honesty can pierce through the armor of prejudice and make him pause. What should you do when faced with this dynamic? First, allow yourself to feel fully, without excusing or defending someone else's assumptions. Your clarity and emotional authenticity are the tools that trigger change. When you respond with truth instead of anger, with presence instead of performance, you create a mirror in which obsession and prejudice cannot hide. They are forced to reconcile their internal story with the reality of your strength, intelligence, and humanity. Respect does not demand charm or compliance. Response. To authenticity, you do not need to tolerate judgment or manipulation to teach a lesson. Simply existing fully and honestly in your own space is enough to catalyze transformation. Heart-touching change happens in the recognition of pain, because recognition humanizes, while argument only entrenches distance. And whether that moment leads to understanding or simply awareness, remember this. The power lies in your calm, confident presence. Your dignity and authenticity are far more impactful than any lecture. And even one day of genuine human encounter can turn silent hate into a spark of respect. The strongest truth you can carry is that your presence matters, and it can change hearts without you having to ask for it. Have you ever noticed how easy it is for the human mind to create stories about others, filling in gaps with assumptions that feel like truth? And how quickly these stories can become the barriers between hate and respect. This is where heart-touching change begins, because empathy has the power to collapse walls in a single day, especially when a woman stands with confidence and refuses to fit into someone else's narrative. Many men obsess over women in ways they don't even realize watching. From a distance, analyzing reactions, imagining connection, but they often fail to see the person beneath their projection. Obsession without empathy can create judgment, fear, and even silent hostility. As a therapist, I want you to understand this. Transformation happens not when you fight assumptions, but when you allow your presence, your words, and your demeanor to reflect your humanity. One day can be enough to turn someone's bias into respect, because when a man truly sees a woman as complex, capable, and whole, the fantasy he has been obsessed with must reconcile with reality. What should you do in these moments? First, embrace clarity and emotional truth. Speak when it matters, listen when it is safe, but never dilute your reality to make someone else comfortable. Your calm, unwavering self-respect forces others to witness the real person, not the projection. Empathy is not a favor you give, it is the lens through which people finally see truth. Men who have been obsessed often respond not to lectures, but to presence. They notice your boundaries, your strength, and your ability to exist without validation. That awareness, respect can emerge almost instantly, because seeing someone fully awakens the part of the human brain wired for connection, understanding, and care. The shift from hate to respect does not require agreement or explanation. It requires recognition. And the lesson for every woman is profound. Your power lies in living authentically, refusing to shrink, allowing your human reality to challenge assumptions. Heart-touching change in a single day is possible because you do not need to carry someone across the gap. You only need to stand fully in your own space. Your presence, honesty, and dignity become a mirror that reflects respect back to the observer. In the end, the most lasting transformation is not in changing someone else. It is in embodying the respect and humanity you wish to see, and trusting that your authentic self can awaken the same in those who once overlooked it. Have you ever reflected on why some people never seem to change, while others can transform in just a single day when confronted with truth? This is the essence of heart-touching change, because real transformation begins not with guilt, but with responsibility. And it is especially powerful when a woman stands firmly in her own dignity. Many men obsess over women without realizing the impact of their actions, watching, analyzing, judging, and trying to control outcomes, yet their fixation often blinds them to the very humanity they long to connect with. As a therapist, I want you to understand that true respect emerges when someone takes responsibility for their thoughts and behaviors rather than blaming the world or trying to manipulate you. You do not owe your energy to someone who refuses to see you fully, but your calm, self-aware presence can spark recognition in ways arguments never could. One day can be enough for a man to move from silent bias or obsession to genuine respect when he realizes that you are not an idea or a fantasy, but a human being with boundaries, intelligence, and emotions that demand acknowledgement. What should you do in these moments? First, embrace the power of accountability, not apology. You cannot carry someone from hate to understanding, but you can create the conditions for them to see the truth by refusing to shrink yourself, by refusing to explain or justify your worth. Many men who obsess over women do so because they have never been confronted with someone who refuses to tolerate their projection. Your authenticity becomes the mirror they cannot ignore. Responsibility is not about shaming yourself or taking on their internal struggles. It is about recognizing where your influence ends and your integrity begins. Heart-touching change happens when people are allowed to confront themselves without your sacrifice, and in that moment, respect is born not from fear, not from guilt, but from realization. The lesson for every woman is clear. Your value does not increase or decrease based on someone's recognition, but your presence, your strength, your refusal to compromise your humanity can awaken the best in those who are ready to see it. Even one day, your grounded self-respect can turn obsession into awareness, prejudice into empathy, and silent hate into genuine respect, proving that true transformation begins with responsibility and the courage to honor yourself above all.